365. Myself Srija. So today in this session you are going to learn about the anatomy of hypodermis and the accessory structures of the skin. So coming to hypodermis, it's a thirdmost layer of the skin. It is also called as the subcutaneous layer or the superficial fascia. So this hypodermis, it's the deepest layer of the integumentary system lying below the dermis. So this is not considered a part of the true skin, but it anchors the skin, it provides the insulation, it stores the fat, and it houses major blood vessels and nerves. So what is the location of hypodermis? It is situated beneath the dermis. So this lies above the muscles, bones, and deeper fascia. So what is the structure of the hypodermis? So hypodermis, it is composed of a loose connective tissue, so which contains the fibroblast, collagen, and elastic fibers. So what does this do? They provide the elasticity and movement between the skin and underlying the muscles. So next, it is composed of the adipose tissue. So this adipose tissue, it's a specialized fat storing cells, and it forms the fat lobules which are separated by the fibrous connective tissue septa. So thickness varies by the age, gender, body region, nutritional status, and fibrous septa. So what is fibrous septa? It is a dense connective tissue bands. So it anchors the dermis to deeper tissues. It creates the compartments that contain fat lobules. So what are the layers of hypodermis? Superficial fat layer and deep membranous layer. So what is superficial fat layer? It is immediately below the dermis. You can clearly see in the picture. This is the dermis, right? Papillary dermis and reticular dermis are the layers of the dermis. So immediately below the dermis, you can find the superficial fat layer. It is mainly consists of the adipose tissue. So this provides the cushioning and insulation. It is also, and the next layer below the superficial fat layer is a deep membranous layer. So this is a more fibrous layer. It blends with the deep fascia. It consists of less adipose tissue. It provides the strong anchoring of the skin. So what are the anatomical variations of hypodermis? So age, gender, body regions. Age in infants, it is a thicky fatty layer which is useful for heat regulation. Whereas in elders, it is a thinning hypodermis which is more prone to injury. Coming to gender variation, in females, this is thicker in thighs, buttocks, and breast. Whereas in males, it is thicker in abdomen and upper torso. Coming to body regions, it is thick in abdomen, thighs, and buttocks region, whereas it is thin in eyelids, nose, and ears. So we have discussed about epidermis, dermis, and hypodermis anatomy. Now let's talk about the functions, that is physiology of these three layers of the skin. So functions of the epidermis. Epidermis, it's the outermost layer of the skin, right? It is made up of the keratinized stratified squamous epithelium, as we have discussed earlier session. So its main role is protection. So what is protection? It acts as a first line of defense against the mechanical injury, against the pathogens like bacteria, viruses, and fungi, against the chemicals, and against the UV radiation. So it also acts as a water barrier. It helps in the excess water loss, nothing but dehydration. It plays a role in the entry of water and chemicals. It also has a function of immune defense. So what do you mean by immune defense? So Langerhans cells. So epidermis consists of Langerhans cells, right? So these Langerhans cells, they detect the antigens and initiate the immune response. And then it also plays a role in the sensation. So Merkel cells, they detect the light, touch, and pressure. Whereas in vitamin D synthesis, the epidermal cells, they contain the 7-dehydrocholesterol chemical. So UV light converts it into vitamin D3, nothing but the cholecalciferol. So it plays a role in the skin color or pigmentation. Nothing but the melanocyte cells, they produces the melanin. So this protects from the UV damage. And the last function of the epidermis is renewal and repair. So stratum basilae, which is the first layer of the epidermis, it continuously produces the new keratinocytes for healing purposes and also for the replacement of the shedded cells. So what are the functions of the dermis? So dermis is a thick vascular connective tissue which is a layer beneath the epidermis. So it provides the support, strength, elasticity and also the sensation. So how it supports the structure? So collagen and elastin fibers which are present in the dermis, they give strength to the cells, they give elasticity to the cells and they also provide the flexibility. Coming to nourishment of epidermis. So dermal capillary networks, they provide nutrients to the avascular epidermis. Sensation. The sensation, the dermis, they contain various sensory receptors like Messinger corpuscles, they help in light and touch. Pacinian corpuscles, they help in pressure and vibration. Ruffini endings, they stretch the cells, and free nerve endings, they play a role in pain and temperature. And the next function is the thermoregulation. So what do you mean by thermoregulation? The blood vessels in the dermis, they helps to regulate the temperature by vasodilation, by releasing the heat, or vasoconstriction by conserving the heat. So sweat glands also assist in the controlling. So next is excretion. So sweat glands, they eliminate the waste by in the form of water, salts and also in the amount of small amounts of urea and ammonia. And immune response, it contains phagocytes like macrophages which defend against the infections. So this dermis, it also has the hair and gland support. It houses the hair follicles, sebaceous glands and sweat glands. So what does these structures do? They contribute to protection, lubrication and also the temperature control. So dermis, it plays a role in wound healing. Wound healing, fibroblast produces collagen for tissue repair and also the scar formation. So now what are the functions of the hypodermis? So hypodermis, it is also called a subcutaneous layer. So this provides the insulation, cushioning and also the energy storage. So in insulation, what does it do? It reduces the heat loss and it maintains the body temperature. Whereas in shock absorption, it protects the underlying organs, muscles, blood vessels and also bones from the trauma. Whereas in energy storage, the adipocyte cells, they store the fat as long-term fuel. Anchoring of skin, they connect the skin to muscles and bones. They allow the skin to glide freely over the underlying structures. It also plays a role in passage for vessels and nerves. So this contains the large blood vessels, lymphatics and also nerve trunks that supply the dermis. So what are the hormonal and metabolic functions? So this adipose tissue which is present in hypodermis, it produces the leptin and also the adiponectin and cytokines. So cytokines, they play a role in immunity and the inflammation. So this is a site for the subcutaneous injection, nothing but hypodermis. It involves in slow absorption of the drugs like insulin vaccines because of due to its low vascularity. So this is about the major organ of the integumentary system, nothing but about the skin. So now let's talk about the accessory structures of the skin. So what are the accessory structures of the skin? The first one is hair. So hair is one of the important accessory organ of the integumentary system. So it is a keratinized filament, meaning it is made up of a hard keratin. It's a tough protective protein. So hair grows from hair follicles which are tube-like imaginations of the epidermis located deep in the dermis. So sometimes it extends into the hypodermis also. So what are the functions of the hair? Hair is not just a cosmetic. It has several biological roles. So it plays a major role in protection, sensation, thermoregulation and also communication. So protection, how does it protect? It eyelashes which we have for the eyes. So these eyelashes, it protect the eyes from the dust. So nasal hair, it filter air entering the nose. Hair on the scalp, it protects against the UV radiation. So in sensation, each hair follicle is connected to the sensory nerve endings. So making hair very sensitive to touch and vibration. Thermoregulation, the hair traps a layer of warm air close to the skin. So arrector pili muscle, it contracts in cold or fear, which is causing the goosebumps and raising the hair. So it also play a major role in communication. So hair helps with social and sexual signals. For example, like eyebrows, beard, and scalp hair. So what is the human hair count? So humans have approximately 5 million hairs. So which has the highest density? The scalp, eyebrows, and eyelashes has the highest density, whereas palms and soles, which is a hairless skin, it has the lowest density. So now let's go into about the anatomy of hair. So hair has three major structural parts. So what are those? Hair shaft, hair root, and hair follicle. So hair shaft, it's a visible part of the hair above the skin surface. It is completely dead keratinized cells. So this hair color depends on type and amount of melanin in the cortex. So second layer, hair root. So the part of the hair below the skin surface is the hair root. So this extends down into the dermis. So this is a clear picture of the hair. You can clearly see here the hair bulb, hair papilla, hair matrix, and also the hair shaft over here. You can completely see the layers of the hair in this picture. So let's talk about the layers of the hair. So what is the first layer? It's a hair shaft. So what is hair shaft? Hair shaft is the part of the hair that you can see above the skin surface. So it is made up of entirely of a dead keratinized epithelial cells, which is why cutting hair does not cause pain or bleeding. So this shaft is made up of three concentric layers arranged from outside to inside. So let's talk about the layers of the hair shaft. So cuticle. Cuticle is the outermost layer. It is a thin transparent layer. It is made up of overlapping flat dead keratinized cells which like shingles on a roof. So the cells overlap with the edges pointing towards the tip of the hair. So what are the functions of the cuticle? It protects the inner layers like cortex and medulla. It provides shine and smoothness. It also prevents hair from absorbing too much water. So a damaged cuticle, it leads to rough, dull and brittle hair. You can also find the split ends in the hair and increased frizz in the hair. So this cuticle, it contains hard keratin, which is the strongest form of keratin in the body. So chemical treatments like dye, bleach, heat styling, these break the cuticle bonds. Conditioner works by smoothing and sealing the cuticle layer. So what is the middle layer? Cortex. Middle layer is the thickest layer, which is called as cortex. So this is made up of 75 to 90% of the hair shaft. So this is composed of long keratin fibers which are arranged in the bundles like microfibrils and also the macrofibrils. So this contains the melanin pigment which gives hair its color. So what are the functions of the cortex? It determines the hair color, nothing but the melanin amount and type. It also determines the hair strength, which is about the keratin content, and it also determines the hair elasticity, its ability to stretch and return. So gray hair, so what is the meaning of gray hair? Nothing but you have the reduced melanin production. So straight hair versus curly hair, it depends upon the shape of the cortex. If you have the round cortex, you will have a straight hair. If you have an oval and flat cortex, you will have a curly hair. So this is how a cortex play a role in the shape of the hair. So if the innermost layer of the hair is medulla. So medulla is a soft central core. It is made up of loosely arranged cells, air spaces and also the soft keratin. So this is absent in very fine or light air. So what are the functions of the medulla? It plays a major role in insulation. So it also plays a minor role in strength. So it contributes to the insulation because of the trapped air. So this medulla is more prominent in the coarse hair, beard hair and also the animal hair. So animal hair, which is important in the forensic identification. You can clearly see the picture of the hair shaft over here, and you can see the layers of the hair shaft: cuticle, medulla, cortex. So cuticle is the outer layer, it's a thin transparent layer like shown with the overlapping cells. Cortex, it's a middle layer, the bulk of the shaft which is shown as the purple region, and microfibrils, macrofibrils, This represents the keratin bundles inside the cortex. And medulla, it's the center of the hair shaft. So this is a loosely packed dark cells in the core. So this helps you to differentiate the three layers of the hair shaft easily. So this is the hair shaft. So next, coming to hair root. So what is hair root? It's a part of the hair that lies below the surface of the skin. So this is embedded in the skin and it is not visible. So the root ends in an enlarged bulb-like structure which is called as the hair bulb. So you can clearly see the hair bulb in this picture. So what is hair bulb? It is an expanded base of the root. So this lies deep in the dermis, sometimes reaching the hypodermis. So what is the structure and features of the hair bulb? It is a living part of the hair. It is surrounded by a layer of actively dividing cells called as the hair matrix. So this covers and surrounds the dermal papilla. So what is the function of the hair bulb? The hair matrix, it produces the new keratinized cells for hair growth, and the hair shaft layers cuticle, cortex and medulla. So this contains the melanocytes, so which add pigment to the hair. So hair matrix E is equal to the growth zone of the hair. So if there is a damage to the hair bulb, like severe burns, scarring, so they can permanently stop the hair growth. If hair color comes from melanocytes in the matrix, so it is a reduced activity gives the graying. This is about the hair bulb. And the next part of the hair root is the dermal papilla. So what is dermal papilla? You can see here in the picture. So it sides at the very base of the bulb like a root plug. So what is the structure? It is made up of a vascular connective tissue. It contains blood vessels, nerves and growth factors. So this dermal papillae, it supplies the oxygen, nutrients and hormonal signals to the hair matrix cells. So they control the rate of hair growth, they control the thickness and also the growth cycle changes from anagen to telogen. So what is the next layer? Hair follicle. So hair follicle, it's a tubular sheath that surrounds the hair root. So it acts like a protective socket for the hair. So where it is located, it extends from the epidermis down through the dermis and sometimes from the hypodermis. So hair follicle, you can see the layers of the hair follicle in this slide. You have 4 layers of the hair follicle and you can also see in the picture clearly the internal root sheet, external root sheet, glassy membrane and connective tissue sheet. So the internal root sheet is it helps the shape and guide the growing hair shaft. It breaks down the area above the bulb, and coming to outer root sheet, it helps in the continuation of the epidermis downward and it also provides the structural support. So connective tissue sheet, it is the outermost covering. It contains collagen fibers for the strength. So this hair follicle, it's a tubular invagination of the epidermis which extends deep into the dermis. So it surrounds the hair root, nourishes the growing hair and it anchors the hair to the skin. So the follicle has 4 major layers, that is internal root sheet, external root sheet, glassy membrane and connective tissue sheet. So external root sheet, it is a direct continuation of the epidermis down into the follicle. It is a thick, multi-layered and flexible. It extends from the surface of the skin deep into the dermis. So what are the functions of the external root sheet? It provides protection and structural support to the follicle. So this contains stem cells near the bulge region. So glassy membrane, it acts as a supportive barrier. It helps to maintain the structural shape of the follicle. Connective tissue sheet, it provides the mechanical support holding the follicle firmly in the place. It also carries the blood vessels and nerves that supply the follicle. So clearly you can see the pictures over here, connective tissue papilla, internal root sheet, external root sheet, cuticle, cortex and medulla. So next, types of hair. So hair on the human body can be classified into three major types based on thickness, pigment, location and developmental stage. So these types are lanugo, vellus hair and terminal hair. So what do you mean by lanugo hair? It's a fine, soft, downy hair present on the fetus. It's the first type of hair produced during the development. So what are the features? It's a very thin, silky and unpigmented hair. It covers the fetus at around 5 to 7 months of the gestation. So what is the function? It helps to hold the vernix caseosa, a protective white coating on the skin. So it also provides the temperature protection inside the womb. So next, coming to vellus hair, it's a fine, short, unpigmented hair. It covers most of the body surface except palms, soles, lips, nipples, parts of the external genitalia. So what are the functions of vellus hair? It provides light protection, it helps with sensation and also the thermoregulation. So coming to terminal hair, it is thick, coarse, long and pigmented hair. So this is located at scalp, eyebrows and eyelashes. So this usually develops at the puberty under the influence of the androgens. It appears in armpits, pubic region, face in males and chest in males. So it contains high amounts of melanin, which is darker in color. So this is about the types of hair. So next is hair growth cycle. So hair growth is not continuous, right? It occurs in a cyclic pattern with three main phases. So what are the three main phases in the hair growth cycle? You can clearly see a picture here. Anagen, catagen and telogen. So which is followed by return to anagen. So what is anagen phase? It is a growth phase. So this is the active growth phase of the hair. It lasts 2 to 7 years depending upon the genetics. So 85 to 90% of scalp hair is in this phase at any given time. So this hair grows about 1 centimeter per month. So hair cells in the matrix, they divide rapidly, pushing the hair shaft upward. So a longer anagen, it gives the longer hair length possible. So what is the next phase? Catagen phase. So this is a short transition between growth and rest. It lasts 2 to 3 weeks, very short compared to anagen. The hair matrix stops dividing, the follicle shrinks and detaches from the dermal papilla. So this produces what it is called as club hair, which a hair that is no longer growing. You can clearly see in the picture about the club hair. This is no longer growing, right? So next is telogen phase. It is a resting phase. So hair is not actively growing but stays anchored in the follicle. So this lasts about 2 to 4 months. Hair does not grow during this time. So at the end of telogen, the hair falls out naturally at a process called as exogen. So 10 to 15% of scalp hair is normally in the telogen. So what happens during exogen? The old club hair sheds. A new hair starts to develop underneath. So after telogen, this follicle re-enters the anagen and a new hair begins to form from the hair matrix. So this diagram on this slide clearly shows you about the anagen, catagen, telogen and return to the anagen. So this visualization helps you to understand how the changes in the hair follicle structure takes place. So why does hair fall daily? Because of the normal shedding. So 50 to 100 hairs per day, mainly from the telogen phase, happens. So when does excessive hair fall occur? When many hairs shift to telogen suddenly. So why does chemotherapy cause hair loss? Because chemo affects rapidly dividing cells, right? It stops anagen phase, so which leads to sudden shedding. So why can some people grow very long hair? Because their anagen phase is naturally longer. So this is about the hair growth cycle. So next, coming to the physiology of hair and the factors affecting the hair growth. So hair is not just for appearance, right? Its structure and function play a multiple important biological roles. So hair growth and keratinization. So hair is made up of keratin, a strong protective protein. So hair forms in the hair follicle where cells in the hair matrix multiply. So all these cells move upward. So they become filled with the keratin, which is a process called as keratinization. So these keratinized cells, they die and form the visible hair shaft. And also it has a role in hair pigmentation. So color of the hair is due to melanin produced by the melanocytes. Protective function, it acts as a protective barrier, like it protects against the UV rays. So eyebrows and eyelashes, it keeps sweat, dust and insects out of the eyes. So it also play a role in the sensory function, like hair follicles, they contain the nerve endings. So this detect the insects, environmental changes and also the light touch. Coming to thermoregulation, hair traps a thin layer of air over the skin. So this helps to maintain the body temperature. And hormonal influences, it strongly affect the hair pattern and growth due to the hormones like androgens, testosterone and thyroid hormones. So hormonal imbalance, it can cause the hair thinning or unwanted growth of the hair. So what are the factors affecting the hair growth? Genetics, nutrition, hormones, age, stress, diseases, and medications. So genetics, it determines the hair thickness, length, color, density, and growth rate. So family history plays a major role in the pattern baldness. So coming to nutrition, so hair requires nutrients for healthy growth, right? So it requires protein, iron, vitamins, and also zinc for the growth. So nutritional deficiencies, they commonly causes the hair fall, and hormones like androgens, thyroid, so this can affect hair follicles strongly. So next, coming to age, so growth rate slows with the age. So hair becomes the thinner, less pigmented and drier. And then stress, so stress pushes hair into telogen phase again, causing the telogen effluent. So this results in the hair fall. So diseases like the thyroid disorders and also alopecia, they affect the metabolism and hair cycling. So next, the medications. So some drugs affect hair by interrupting the growth cycle. Chemotherapy, it attacks rapidly dividing cells, which leads to the sudden hair loss. Whereas steroids, blood thinners, antidepressants, and antihypertensives, so they may also cause the shedding. So these are the factors affecting the hair growth. So this is for today's session. I hope this session has helped you. So in the next session, we will be learning about many more accessory structures of the skin like nail and fibers. Thank you.